Today we'll be discussing the parts of an atom and finding the parts of the atom when it has an isotope. An atom is the smallest unit of an element that maintains the properties of that element. All atoms are made of the same parts: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons are positive and electrons are negative. To find both of them, they are the atomic number of the element. But neutrons are neutral, which they are found by subtracting the mass number by the protons, unless you have an isotope, which is the new mass, which you will subtract that from the protons. We're going to discuss 3 examples that have different isotopes but same element, boron. In this model, the protons and neutrons are in the middle. That's the red and the yellow balls. And the electric cloud, which is the rings outside of the nucleus, are where the electrons will be, but you will only place 2 electrons on the first ring and the remaining on the second ring. Example number 1, boron 10 will have 5 protons, 5 neutrons, and 5 electrons. Why? Because the atomic number is 5, so that will be 5 protons and 5 electrons. Then you will subtract the isotope, which was 10, by the protons, which is 5, and that's how you got 5 neutrons. Example number 2. Boron 11. It will have 5 protons, 5 electrons, and 6 neutrons. Why? Because the atomic number is still 5, so that's the protons and the electrons. So that defines the protons and electrons, which for us to find the neutrons, we'll have to subtract the new mass, which is 11, from the protons, which is 5, and that's how we got 5 neutrons. Example number 3. Boron 13. It will still have 5 protons and 5 electrons, but the neutrons will be different because the new mass number is 13. So you will have to subtract 13, which is the mass number, from 5, which is the protons, and you will get 8 neutrons. We have discussed the protons and the electrons and the neutrons in these 3 diagrams. With these different isotopes, the element will always be the same. The element is always the same even though it has different mass number. Boron is still boron and still has 5 protons and 5 electrons. The protons and electrons will be the same. They will always be the same because they're the atomic number, and the atomic number doesn't change for the element. They will also have the same chemical property because nothing changed about them, but they will have different masses because they will have different masses that will have a physical property. So since they have different masses, they will have different physical properties because they have different amount of masses. Thank you for listening to my instructions of how to identify a model of protons, neutrons, and electrons.